Hey, good evening, guys. Canatours Capital. This is the check-in for Lesson 7, Cohort D, on April 11th, 2023. We'll start with a quick check-in from the team, see how you guys are doing, in the order I see you on my screen. Art, how are we doing today?
We're doing good. I'm playing catch up after my all my singing last week.
Yeah.
But I good. Got caught up on a little bit of rest Sunday night and a little bit yesterday, so back at full speed.
All good.
Oh,
And Luke, how are you, sir?
Yeah, full speed over here. Kids are on holidays and working and trading this week and just getting ready for some colder months, but all good over here.
Awesome. And Dan, how are you, sir?
Yeah, doing well. Weather warmed up, very nice, and I'm having had a good day trading yesterday. Did some other things today, but all good over here.
Very good. And my brother, how are you, sir? Had a late. Sorry about that. Had a late admission tonight, but so I'll be playing a little bit of catch up. But I got my drum. I don't know if you can see it. Nice. 15 noter. So I'm nice. Happy with that. Different part-time job and enjoying it so far. I hope. Very nice. Is this different than doing the on-call hospice? No, this is it's on-call hospice, but last week, as I was going through the training with all the other nurses, the manager of the education wing said, hey, they have an assistant manager of operations position open, and we'd really like for you to, do that. So, well, maybe. Okay. So cool. I interviewed for it, and we'll see. We'll see. Sounds cool. I'm doing well here. We are into the elective period at the military college. Guys are starting to take their next assignments pretty seriously now that the orders are coming in, and they're taking the classes they need to round off whatever sharp edges we left them with. And part of us are preparing for next year's new scenario. We're looking at the Indo-Pacific region. We've been working with the Baltics, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Poland. These last 2 or 3 years, pretty timely. And next on our docket is Asia Pacific. So we're dusting off all our World War II stuff, taking a look at that region of the world. Serious business. And spring is upon us. Soccer's going well. Kids are doing fine. And the AI, I'm learning more each day faster than I thought I could. So in one sense, it's, I'm glad I have this course to be helping me think my way through all that stuff. Found some software or a model, large language model called Abacus today that is geared towards exactly the problem that I've been working on, which is how to create a chat bot that is tailored to a particular body of knowledge, such as my FAQs or my own audio video lectures. So exploring that one, and pretty excited about it. Well, I'm going to hit the tones and move us into the room. There was especially good sessions this weekend. Was just in a mood. The 3-hour review of the daily and weekly reports I thought was as good as I've ever done it in 20 years. And did an hour on foundations Q&A about the 5 mindsets. Bill, that was the piece I was needing for the introduction. So that's coming along well. And then the creativity session was just great with, I was able to do a summary of our learning triad, which you guys have heard before, but a nice, concise 15-minute pitch that's also suitable for the book. So making progress in every direction. And I'll get us into the room, and we'll take a look at lesson 7, or whichever lesson we're ready to talk about. Lesson 7 being the 2 intelligences. And but the lesson you're on is the lesson we're with. So here we go. Into the room. That is a large wooden talking stick that is on the screen, ready for one of you to reach and grab, just in case you're wondering what that was.
Oh.
All right.
I'll go. So, was busy last week with a lot of singing for my choir obligation, and it actually it was actually enjoyable. It was a lot of work, but I actually got to see some things in services that I never really got to see before, and I found all in all it was a good experience, and touched me in a couple different ways. I think that I haven't quite been able to put words to, but it was good. And as I was reading, I was able to start the lesson a little bit before last week's check-in that I wasn't able to make. I'd been busy at work, and I love that story about Caesar and his innovative ideas. And as I started thinking about the whole idea of doing things differently, and setting the intention to be creative, it reminded me of something that we covered in another class that I'm taking, and it's similar kind of an idea of taking a look at your daily patterns and seeing what you can do different, and begin to try to set the intention to do just that. And I'm thinking that, like, as I'm doing my singing, it's beginning to feel like that counts in a way. It's actually causing me to look at things and learn things that I hadn't really done before, and really develop kind of a new set of skills in my voice, and a new form of creative expression, which I think has been lacking in my life. So I kind of wanted to share that, and more on that, hopefully a lot more on that to share in the future. And the other thing, I started taking a look at the exercises, and I'd like to. I didn't get very far with the exercise 6, but I love the list of starting to go through, like my trusted advisors, and start to think of those. And I'm going to go back and listen to the recording from last week, and then I think when next week I should be caught up and be able. I'd like to share some of what I come up between now and then. So anyway, with that, that's kind of where I'm at. Aho.
William?
No, I had missed last week, so I am ready to do last week's lesson 6. Uh, Motivational things pulling me forward is the striving to provide for my clan, helping. I want to help change the world, even my little corner of it, because I think if everybody does that, then we might all be better off, and have more time for my family. What are the powerful sources that are compelling me to leave the current status quo? This past year, working with Ken and not with any corporate thing, entity, let's say, has strengthened my resolve that no one gains independence working for a company or under the direction of others. But the possibility of becoming this associate or the assistant manager of operations, one of their big desires is to have somebody who's innovative and wanting to educate other people on new things and taking the company vision forward, and just the true storytelling and creativity. I've brought it up in our IDT meeting today, which is a interdisciplinary team meeting where everybody's there, from the managing director all the way down to, the nurses. Not down, but I mean, you have to have some kind of hierarchy there. And when I started explaining the idea behind how we could help families by establishing true storytelling circles, and how it could maybe help potentiate the removal of maybe old hard feelings between family members, and let's concentrate on, focusing for the quality of life for the patient of what they have left, and using the principles of truth and non-judgmental help. They were all very, very interested in doing that. So I think that I could, what beliefs am I willing to drop? Well, maybe I can work with an organization again for a while yet, as long as it doesn't violate my beliefs and my morals. Not that hospice would do that as an organization, but I fiercely value my time with my family. So I've adopted the mantra of every time I say yes to work, I say no to my family. So the decision of whether or not to take this extra shift or to take, extra time away from them is just the answer is no. 90% of the time, 95% of the time, which is a lot better than in the past. So the beliefs that I would hold on to with all my strength and identity would be to have truth in all things and to love with your whole being. And it's kind of counter to the culture of hospice. To in hospice, you're not supposed to invest a lot of yourself in your patients, but I find that they get better results in the end of their lives if the nurse that's supposed to be this neutral, Switzerland as far as feelings goes towards them, if you invest some of yourself with them, especially in a true circle or a true space, that makes all the difference. So just wrestling with that sometimes is kind of difficult, because you end up dying a little with each patient. But I think the the cosmic difference, the cosmic balance is a little better in doing so. So you have to, I think that's also something you have to do. So in conclusion, I guess, I know I'm not getting through the whole exercise, but I think just that if I do go on with becoming a more managerial person and helping even more families that way, that might be easier on me, because then the personal interaction, which I know the emotional and physical cost of that. So I think I'm 56. I don't want to burn out my soul before then. I guess that's maybe a little selfish, but I don't know. In a place of indecisiveness. So that's why I'm here, to speak my truth to you guys and see what the universe kicks back. Aho.
Luke,
Lesson 7. Lesson 7. So in terms of plotting, as opposed to logic, I thought that plotting fosters creativity, and in terms of that, that's understanding how we can construct systems for trading. So systems exploration and working out which system fits my belief, and then test them to work out which ones I want to go into a little bit more. Then from that, you can work out what the logic is in that system, and then that logic fosters compliance to make sure that you're following the system rules. And then from that, you can work out if the system is working as what it should have been doing when you were creating it. And so I found this lesson quite useful, because separating those two brains in terms of trading, it's not just all about creativity, it's how one can go into the other. So I found that quite useful. Questions? Remember a time in my life when I was able to use cunning and logic to sort out a solution to a trading problem. I remember years ago when this was before I was trading daily, I was back testing the DAX and some other symbols in terms of opening ranges and putting brackets around the opening 15-minute candle. And it was just all based on price. There was no indicators on there. I was looking at how price moved during the session. Now, I knew there was something there, and I didn't exactly know when I should get out. So there was an entry signal. I break out above the 15-minute candle, break out below the 15-minute candle, but I didn't know when to get out. And I started just looking at the charts and trying to find some patterns to work out what a system could be. And I worked out, if all I did was enter a breakout for a long and then exit at the closing 15-minute candle, what would that have been? And then I plotted that in Excel, worked out some of the profits and losses based on what that could have been. And then I stumbled on, I just typed into Google something like expected profit on the trade, and then it led me into expectancy. and then it led me into Vanta. And then the Pandora's box opened, because all the questions that I knew were in my head, or knew that should be asked, were there. And then all the answers were there because of all the decades of experience and trading knowledge that he had, which then led me to system quality numbers, and then led me to Ken. So I found that the question that I had, I didn't even know what the question was, but all I did was I just kept going and kept asking myself, what's next? What should I learn from this? How can I put this into not a system, but how can I get more information from this? And through learning 2 decades ago now, all of Dr. Alexander Elder's triple trading screen psychology led me to that sort of understanding of trading. But from what I did in terms of the system review, that led me to Van. So that was how I led myself to understanding what my problems were and working out what the answers were at that point. So I found that quite useful. Next question is, discover a compelling story of a trader who was able to use logic and rationality to solve his trading problem. There is a trader who trades live on the DAX, and I was talking about this, if it wasn't last week, it was the week before, and he trades it live, and the only thing he trades is price action, doesn't trade technicals or anything like that. And whilst I'm trading Ken's system on the DAX and the FTSE, and he just trades price action, it's interesting to know that he's got the market structure a little bit more down pat than I do. And in March, I think it was the start of March, when non-farm payrolls came out, he got hit quite hard, and he took a couple of days off. He just reviewed his charts, reviewed his system, definitely did a lot of assessment on his psychology, on his system. Then he came back and just traded the way he normally does, his normal system. And then at the end of the month of March, he came back with a substantial profit, which was great, because he just said, look, I just trade my normal way, and just clawed myself back to being positive. So when January and February were quite good, March obviously was just trying to claw back to being in positive territory. Probably one thing that's come from that is that I definitely need to work on my adding second positions, second scoops, third scoops, and trying to incorporate that into the system rules that I've got now, because sometimes it looks like we're getting late. So looking at for the 2-hour battle drill, it's not there where the 2-hour battle drill might be hitting at a certain point. Where I was training before, being more active, getting in earlier, getting out earlier, the second positions doesn't, it might fit my feeling is it doesn't look like it makes sense. So that's why I haven't been putting a lot of second positions on my trades. When last week there was one trade and there was probably 3 positions I could have put on in addition to the first position, because it was a 10-hour trade. And I could have made 30 if I put second, third, and fourth on, but I just don't have the confidence in putting those additional scoops on, and I don't have as I was before, because I feel like sometimes I'm getting a little bit late. So that's something I need to work on, do some review on that and assessment on that at the end of the day, in terms of how I can put those second positions on. Next question is, what can I incorporate from these stories into my belief system and simplify those stories into a few key phrases? I remember Ken said this to me October 21, I think it was. 21, 22, no, 21. I, I had a couple of bad days and he just forwarded me through Jocko Willink's. Good. Just opportunity to learn, get back in it, keep trading the normal way and see what you can learn from it. And in terms of that, I think what that also allows me to do is reframe the days when I've had losses as opportunities for learning. And if I fall down, just get back up, dust myself off, reload, recalibrate, re-engage, reset, go back and trade in the normal way. Because that's just one trading day. So from the lessons that I just was talking about from that previous trader, that's my belief system now. There was a day about 6 weeks ago, I had a bad trading day. It was a bad trading day, so I was still following my rules, but I was just a little bit off with the timing. And that made all the difference. And then the next day I was able to get back on the horse and really focus in terms of where the entries and exits were and to make sure I wasn't staying in the trades for too long. So that's probably one of the major stories that I will take from the lesson today. The other belief system I think is, for me anyway, trading really is boring. When you really think about it, I think it's just collecting data. And sometimes it takes a long time to collect it. Because if you trade on a 5-minute time frame, which is what I'm doing now, if that's 20 to 30 bars, that's a couple of hours. And if that's one trade or two trades, that does take a long time. So, and there's sometimes during my daytime when you guys are asleep, it just does nothing. And that might be fine if I'm still in the trade, but it also can give me some time to just step out of the market and wait for the next session to open. So it's not scalping. And in terms of that, it can take a long time and a lot of perseverance to make sure that I'm still emotionally set in that I'm following the rules. I've listened to the lesson 7 from the other day, and I thought Zanel's focus on the psychological effects of trading. And she said that the more that I've traded, the more I believe that the output of my results are based on the mind. And I couldn't agree with that more. That's just exactly how I feel. I feel like there's times of the day where I'm more optimistic and times of the day, like in the morning from say 10:30 till 12:30, I'm optimistic, and then pessimistic in the afternoon until the London session has been open for half an hour. I feel that that's where I need to reset and get back into understanding what the system rules are. Jeff Southern said that he never stops thinking about trading, and that resonates with me. I never stop thinking about systems. I never stop thinking about how I can get better at it. And I'm just tenacious with my desire to get better at it each day. That's all for me today. And just my work in progress is keeping on trading with my current system rules and working out how I can put second positions on and minimizing sort of maximizing the trades when they're actually in profit. So yeah, that's for me today. I hope.
Dan.
I missed last week, so I didn't get to do lesson 6, and I got to it kind of late. I feel like I should uh, make more of a conscious effort to get to these sooner because there's a lot of good stuff in these lessons. So I'm just going to hit some highlights from lesson 6 and 7, which some new information and some notes from what I did last time, but I won't read everything I did last time. From lesson 6, I looked at both of them because I wasn't quite sure which one we'd be on, but I started thinking about exercise 1 in lesson 6, where you identify the most important people in your life and what's really original about them. And so I was thinking about my mother and my father and a partner I had in business. I thought about Ken. I thought about Libby. There's a whole list of people I can think about, and I think that's a really good exercise, to think about, what's original about their ideas and lives and so on. So I'm going to definitely want to keep on doing that. And also the one, there was a whole lot of questions in lesson 6 that I was just looking through to yourself that I definitely want to go back and do. So you may hear more from me on lesson 6 and in a future evening. But I spend a bit more time on lesson 7 here. The original people and their unique qualities. I love the example of Julius Caesar and the Battle of Alesia. I used to have a board game for the Battle of Alesia. That was like a major battle. My friend and I doing that because it took hours to play, and it was a battle keeping the board from getting destroyed by the kids or the wives or whoever. But it was a lot of fun, and that was quite a interesting battle. So you wonder what the Gauls might have done differently. Seems like if they had Caesar kind of boxed in, in this ring around Alesia, if they'd been better organized, they probably could have just pulled a Fabian strategy on him and raised the land around so there'd be no supplies and they'd have to come out and get ambushed or whatever. But that would have required some originality on their part, I think. So I liked what I think it was Lou you were saying about plotting, that you needed to have that plotting mindset to devise good systems. I remember from Peak 101 with Van Tharp, Van was pointing out how there were literally millions of games you could play in life and in trading. And it's really true. In trading, there's so many things you could do. You could just sell straddles or something or whatever. And so as I look at how I'm trying to fit RLCO and a couple other systems to my psychology and lifestyle, I'm looking at the process I can follow to create games that I can win profitably. Now, I think the most original thing that I ever did as a trader, certainly the most profitable thing that was original that I did, was back in 2020. I had a system that I developed myself called my active trading system. It was a long-term trading system, and I'd take recommendations from the Stansberry Research newsletters and other newsletters, and I would trade them. And I'd use pretty wide stops because I didn't want to be wrong. And I had this system from 2014 till 2019, and I didn't make a whole lot of money with it. But then in 2020, I did really well with it. because I was now in the super trader program with the Van Tharp Institute, and I was taking my stops, and I had the discipline. And the system was kind of original because it had, for a position, it had not one stop, but two, which is something I learned from Paul Lang at Pristine Capital. He's now with an organization called Disciplined Trader. I don't follow him anymore, but he had a you have your hard stop, your initial stop on the system, which is based on your position size, but then you have what he called the chart stop. That's like Ken calls an execution stop, which is more based on the topology of this chart. So as pivots form or swing lows form, you can move your chart stop under that. But that doesn't have to be a hard stop because you didn't use it in your position sizing. That can be something that it's like an alert. And then when you hit that, you let the price pivot again and see if it can hold above your hard stop. And now you move your hard stop up. So I was doing things like that to try to tighten, reduce those 1R losses to fewer in number. And that was working pretty well. Fast forward to early 2021, the market was getting choppier, particularly in the areas that I was in. I didn't know then that what the market was doing in 2021 was the institutions were quietly withdrawing from smaller and mid-sized stocks into the large caps where they could hide for a rainy day. But I did know that things were getting choppier, we were getting more volatility, and I was concerned that I had all this correlated correlated risk. So I devised this thing that I called the kill switch, where I said, if you get a sudden onslaught of volatility in the market, you see the SPY down 2%, then at that point, I devised a system where a lot of my chart stops became hard stops. And they ended up getting out of a lot of my very profitable 2020 positions, still preserving a lot of my profits. And in fact, 2021, therefore, turned out to be a very good year because of my kill switch. Although I couldn't do that much for the rest of the year because I didn't know about what Mark Boucher called the bathtub effect and that I should be investing in the large caps. I did do quite well that year. Now it's the most creative thing. So now, what do I do now? Well, that kind of gets to my work in progress. It's about plotting, about identifying my game, and I'm working with the RLCO system. Last week, I had the idea that I should just start taking a lot more trades because I felt like I was getting an alert where I saw a stock making a breakout, and I was hesitating. I wasn't putting in an order, and it would go off without me, and then it'd be too late for me to get in. So I figured I'll just try taking as many trades as I could. If it turns out real bad, I don't have to count it in my results. I'll just pretend the week never happened. Well, it turned out okay. And that's really good because one of the things that I'm trying to manifest now is to put the RLCO trading back out of the simulator and back into the live market next week, and to do so profitably. And I feel really good about being on track to do that. I'm a bit better than break even, and I'm finding and fixing mistakes. And I just need to go back to that plotting and identifying even better what's the best game that sort of fits the system, the amount of time I want to spend, my lifestyle, and still being orderly and disciplined about following a process, a game that can win. And I'm doing something like that with some other systems as well. so that's sort of where I'm at with the work in progress. There were a couple other things. The story of a trader that I got from Jack Schweigert's Unknown Market Wizards. Had a very similar experience to the trader that Luke was talking about. I think it's a pretty common story where you make a mistake and you get really rattled, or the market goes through an unusual episode and you get really rattled, and you just need to go back to basics and identify where your mistakes were, fix them, and then get back to trading what you're going to trade. I think that's a pretty common story. So I think with that, I will leave it and aho.
Let's see. All right, let me know when you can see that screen.
I see it.
Okay, so this is a work in progress. I owe Bill and the True Story Circle guys out in New Mexico an update by Thursday. So this was a kind of a breakthrough process I had for dealing with perfection bias and procrastination, and this is applying the true storytelling process of reframing, or restoring, I should say. So over here on the side, these are the formal steps in the true storytelling process. You start with something that is a problem or an opportunity, and you identify the problem as a character in the story. You just personify it, right? You make it a character. And then you externalize it from outside of whoever you think was the root cause. If it's you or somebody else, you just make it a third person. And then you put everything into that new character you've introduced into the ecosystem. Because it's personified, it actually represents a new variable in the situation. Because before it might have just been an environmental feeling or a tone or a mood or something that, some kind of spirit, a cold wind blowing across somebody's grave or something like that, and you can't really contain it. So the idea of characterizing and then externalizing is to put that into a character with boundaries and a motivation that we can observe from a bunch of different positions and get our arms around it. Then you sympathize with that character and look at it from not just the problem it's causing or the opportunity that it's blocking, but from a more positive approach. And then make some revisions to that character's script or the story arc or to the plot that allows you to get some traction, put that character in motion towards a better place. And then strategize how you might make little wow moments out of the initial progress that is getting made, and then you can build on that momentum. And then that leads you to developing a larger restory that incorporate some of those tentative first steps, and then you kind of publicize that in the form of making an artifact or telling somebody about it, so that it locks it in and kind of keeps you on that pathway of changed performance through time. So that's sort of the structured approach to it. This was what spontaneously occurred to me in about a 20-minute visualization that has really helped me make a breakthrough on the book project this week. So this is what this was my effort in restoring from April 6th. So my going in story was that I was feeling a tremendous amount of frustration with inertia in my own organization. At first, the story started off with I was angry at Army University for not adopting the changes that I wanted them to make, and we'll see where this ends up. They were embracing my recommendations for change too slowly, and I noticed that I was not happy with my attitude towards the organization, because my feelings about them were negative and were spilling over into cynicism, and it was beginning to affect my work with other people and on other projects. So I took this phrase, irritated by inertia, as sort of the motivation for a character that I was about to create. And in a moment, like getting hit with a wet fish, I invented this cartoon method, the absurdity method, I suppose. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to search for a character that had the qualities simultaneously of one who was irritated by inertia, but who at the moment was also going to be a character, a cartoon character, that I could simultaneously recognize was funny and innocent and eager and lovable and well-intentioned in their own way, although having that particular, like a character flaw or whatever. Even though that character was lovable, the central feature in that episode, their defining quality in the moment, was that that character, that cartoon, was going to be the living embodiment of a person irritated by their own inertia, so much that they became a caricature of themselves. And so the immediate image that came into my mind was the mad professor from Donald Duck, Ludwig von Drake, who's this little guy over here. And he's got that funny accent, almost like Victor Borge, and he's always, he can't ever get anything quite right, and the experiment's always blowing up on him. And simultaneously, and what I saw him in was almost in a cartoon where he was playing the role of Nero, fiddling while Rome burned, but it was in a cartoon kind of a setting. And so you could imagine if you replace that fat Nero with Ludwig von Drake in a Roman toga, fiddling and using Donald Duck expressions, and just can't get going, knows what needs to be done but can't get going. So I saw him now in a scene where he was dressed as Nero, and he was fiddling while Rome was burning and being frustrated with everybody else when it was clearly his issue. And then I adopted the how could I learn to feel empathy and sympathy for that character because of all these other qualities that I had already invested in him. I was already, by design, with a favorable relation in the long run, that once he could get out of this particular conundrum, he would be lovable. And so I flooded the zone with feelings of forgiveness and gratitude, like I always do when I'm trading, but then just learned to apply it directly to old Ludwig von Drake. I gave him forgiveness for any harm that his inertia might be causing, or his inefficiency. And I also gave him gratitude for carrying my load about the inertia that I was feeling, because it was, by this time, I was already seeing that what I had here was I had just created a mirror to see myself in what was an externalized situation. And that I realized quickly that the irritation that I had externalized and vocalized, my irritation with the inertia of my organization, was simply a projection and a rejection of my own inertia, that I was not satisfied with with the little progress I was making on the book, and it was causing serious harm. And I had not been just doing the essential thing that simply needed to be done. That's just write the fucking freaking book. And as in that moment of gestalt, when I realized that it was simply just what we reject in others is what we're seeing in ourselves at some level, I realized that I was angry at Army University, and it was easy to be angry with them rather than just taking the necessary steps to get my own inertia moving into a flywheel, which I know how to do. And so this week, since last Thursday, I have been cranking all the little pieces and components, and a lot of the energy and motivation for the weekend work, which was about 6 to 8 hours of really good lectures, was really to say those things in a way that I can transcribe and put into the text of the book, because there were all pieces and parts of the sections of the book that I've got to get finished. So I made major breakthroughs this whole weekend, and over the last couple of days getting these pieces written, and was able to just calm the team down a little bit. So yeah, I haven't forgotten. I am actually moving on it. To be fair, the book represents me trying to get the right tone on a 35-year career of building my brand, and doing it in such a way that it positions us exactly where I want us to be, with good ethics, and to pay tribute to Van and his work, but also to position all of us for another 20 to 30 years of leveraging that brand. So it was more than just crank any number of words and get it done. I was really mindful of wanting to do it correctly, and that drifted into inertia for perfection. So this little exercise of restorying turned out to be the crystallizing technique that allowed me to just let that get out of myself, put a name on it, to characterize it or cartoonize it. And the key moment, I think, was the design of the character as a cartoon, which allowed me to simultaneously have him embody a particular problem, the inertia, but also surround it with all those favorable qualities that made it easier to do the forgiveness and gratitude, and see the irony and the silliness of it all, and just move on and get past that, have a good laugh, and just get going. And so as I've been going through the week, just having that picture of Ludwig von Drake and Nero on my screen just helped me kind of continue to crank while I was doing other things, and not worrying about making it perfect as much as I had before. So that turned out to be a pretty important technique. It's one I'm sharing with the guys on Thursday to help them see the power of the true storytelling. And we have been emphasizing mostly the first two principles of true storytelling in our circles, and because they really are the basis of transformational insights, and those first two principles are acknowledging what is already there, and you can see that in the sense of embodying what was there, the inertia and the irritation with self and organization. All of that is there, and just simply putting a name on it. And then step two, or principle number two, making space for all the voices. And that was what allowed me to add other things like empathy, sympathy, forgiveness, gratitude, the positive qualities of that little character. And when we do those things, all the groundwork for transformation has been laid, but there's still miles to go before we sleep, and that has to do with principles 3, 4, and 5. Principle 3 being plot in which you start fiddling around with the different elements of the plot, the story arcs, the characters, some of their motivations, and that's what you see in the restorying process. Is what you do with all of that goodwill and energy and insight that is generated from steps 1 and 2. So you have to do something with that and do work in the world if you want to make changes that last. And so, we've spent more time in our course dealing with steps 1 and 2, but it's also what you do with those pieces and parts and the insights that come. It's not just populating a to-do list, but it's figuring out how to actually get through our own inertia and start making those changes at last. So step 3 being restoring. Steps 4 and 5 have to do with timing and setting, and adding help along the way, and then finally the 7th step of reflection. So there are things that you do with the pieces and parts of the stories that we've been able to tease out and then reposition and rearrange. So some of that work has to be done as well, but that's what you do once you've gone through, which I think is the harder part, is the safety and the trust and the truth that emerges from principles 1 and 2. So anyway, that was my work in progress, making good progress on the book, and excited about where this can go, because that becomes a really important part of the certification course that they've asked me to write about, how to facilitate this process. Because when you're the facilitator of one of these circles, you're sort of a sheep herder, a shepherd, where you're trying to protect the flock and keep them organized and move them to the grass and keep out the wolves and all that stuff, and have people live by the agreements. But there's also, what do you do with the stuff that is surfaced? How do you do that in an ethical manner? So by telling you my story of a way to do restoring, that shows you true storytelling in action, in which I'm not giving you advice. I'm simply telling you the story of my own personal life about where these principles have helped me, and do with that story as you will, so that the people may thrive. So that's my work in progress for this week, and I'm going to hit the tone, and then I'm going to ask you to think about the word that bubbles up in your mind for the week ahead, and help us use that as a focusing lens for going forward. So, aho, and here we go. Listening deeply for the one word. Art.
My word is progress.
Dan.
Restoring.
William.
Resolution.
Luke.
Good.
And of course mine is fiddle. All right, so that moves us into coffee talk. We have 10 or 15 minutes to kick things around. We have a little bit of time this week before we got to cut and run.
I have to share this with you guys, especially with my brother. I think that his Ken's truth, and his struggle this past week has sparked a resolution because his son reached out to me today and said, Uncle Billy, what is the phone app that you want me to write? I need that so I can get through my own perfection cage of perfection. So he's going to adopt my rules and my imperfection, if it were, because the kid's brilliant, and just accept that as what is required and just do my resolution perfectly. So he will take on my definition of perfect. And I'm very, very touched that he wrote out to me.
That's pretty good news. I could sense something like that happening.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. In fact, when I make when I extract out my little story I take a snippet of this.
Yeah.
I'll send that to you, and you can do whatever you want with it, including airing my dirty laundry.
No, I
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. I just now I got a little more pressure. Get the boy genius moving. Awesome. Glad I can be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, what I was really worried about with that book was that a lot of the books being written these days now are just kind of throwaway things just to have 100 pages with words on them. And it doesn't mean anything more than that. But, I'm positioning that book as a testimony of 35 years of work on it with, a dedication to 3 guys that have gone ahead to prepare the way, that without whom we're not standing here talking today. And that's Van Tharp, but it's also 2 guys that worked with me from the earliest years of the Tortoise, which who drove me to develop the community of practice that we particularly have, like Robert Gardner, who, he and I used to share 20 to 30 emails a day about the things that we talk about all the time, like now, the things we're talking about. That was just me and him talking by emails, and it got to the point where it's like, dude, we have got to put this somewhere where more people can listen to it or look at it or whatever, because there's just too much just for you and I to be talking about it. And so that caused us to create, the draft principles of the community of practice 20 plus years ago, which are still in force and are going to be part of that book. And, his rigor and his street savviness and his commitment to the truth were really instrumental for me in helping me get over, imposter syndrome and perfection bias, and but an anchoring sort of in results. And then the third guy, Mark McDowell, who's also passed on, who really encouraged me and supported me in doing the research weekends and the live trading weeks, that I think sort of, the trial by fire was to have all that stuff continue to grow and to learn to trust the people that were showing up doing the work, and we try to make way together. When you're working with rowing, that's making way or giving way together is learning to row together. So the book really is a tribute to those guys, and so I was really felt under pressure. Hurry up and get the thing done just to get it done, but also somehow be a testimony to those guys, but also then position it as the next generation of books that lead people to the Tharp Institute and Van's work, sort of as a testimony to his work, is by trying to write books of his quality. So I got through that this week, and got all the pieces and parts laid out that I want. Now I'm just crunching the final drafts, and we'll let the editor edit. But that's what most of the work this weekend was getting those thousands
Yeah.
of words out of my head and onto the
Yeah,
page.
to be honest, when we were doing that in the first, hey, Bill, just grab these things and compile them, and I did my best
Yep,
of
yep.
trying to be you, but I then was like, okay, well, here it is, and it was like, yeah, it ain't you, man.
Yep.
And I didn't know how to say that, so
Yeah.
I'm not apologizing or whatever, but I
Yeah, no.
just
It
knew,
just also, the last 3 or 4 months, we've also been working with
yeah,
the other guys to get their infrastructure set up to start handling
yeah, yeah,
traffic and all that too. So
yep,
anyway,
yep,
that's good news on
yeah,
my
yeah,
son there. That's good to
yeah,
hear. I'm really excited by this abacus language. I mean, the abacus large language model is exactly a solution for the problem that I've been describing. So I reached out to them uh, to start making some contact. That should be a lot of fun.
yeah. I do sometime this week, in order to, I'll need your a little bit of advice on how big to make the first release of of the uh uh the phone app. I was
Yeah,
just gonna, but we'll talk about that.
yeah, 100 people.
No, I meant, uh, I was just gonna do the basic sniper stuff
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I see.
first, and then
The
Kata
scope, the
2,
scope
and
of the
then,
app. Oh yeah, yeah. Just
yeah, what
uh,
signals do we want to
oh,
send,
I
and
just
then,
think we do it the Godzilla pattern.
okay,
I just do the Godzilla pattern for setup, and then
all right,
the three parts of the kata too.
got it. Okay. Well, I definitely think the sniper stop is the stop to go with myself, but
Yep. Well, just to shift a little bit, I did some work this week. I've been thinking hard about coaching and all the various ways coaching can be done. And I had a chance to spend an hour with a guy who is running the Army's command coaching program that has adopted artificial intelligence into the selection of the pool of officers who are invited to be evaluated to be our future commanders. So in the past, that's always been a human board that reviewed files and then selected people for a centralized promotion board command slate for commanding our battalions and our brigades, which is the central warfighting units we have. Um, that has had problems because ducks choose ducks, is the
yeah,
phrase, you know. And so they've been working hard on this an AI algorithm that could screen all the records of people who put their name in the hat to be considered. And then they have trained that algorithm to produce similar results as in previous years so that it captures whatever the sense of the humans were on those boards, but trying to turn that into rules. And so this past year was the first board where they had the algorithm write the
okay,
invitations, and they had about 96% of the officers who were invited to the week-long program of selection were chosen by that algorithm, and then 4% were guys who were not on that list but who persuaded a three-star general to write a personal letter of recommendation, and then they were added to that list. And then those guys go through a pretty rigorous week of analysis and inspection and observation, their physical fitness, writing and speaking, and but how well they play with others, and then they do a command psychologist review to take a look at their makeup, and they're giving all those guys 6 hours of executive coaching to carry out back to the world once they leave, and then from that pool of officers. There's about an 80% selection rate, so 20% are sort of set aside and say not yet ready for command or not yet certified, so there's more work for them to do. So I was very interested in the coaching model that they were using. It turns out that they're using something very similar to or identical to the International Coaching Federation, the ICF Business Executive Coaching program, which has been around 30 years or so and has a pretty good reputation. And it's something that I had considered getting a credential in. When Van first asked me if I thought I might want to do any coaching for VTI, I said, well, as I was thinking my way through that, I initially said no because I didn't want to do that. Because I didn't want to try to coach in the way he was coaching. And I didn't know if it was appropriate for me to coach in a way that was different than Van's coaching approach, So I said no, but I studied this ICF because it really appealed to my sense of structure and observable behaviors and codes of ethics and standards and practices, and then an experiential process like craft knowledge to be certified as a coach. I didn't pull the trigger on it because I had other things going on, but and I wasn't sure I wanted to coach, but I've been thinking more and more about that as I look at developing some of our proteges here to be teachers and coaches, and also I think to help VTI the most, they need to add a structured coaching program for people that want that. There's other people that coach in different ways, so I'm looking at the ICF certification as a way to do that. And so that was one of the other works in progress this week. I had Chat GPT and the Koala do me a bunch of staff work to summarize approaches to coaching, to summarize the ICF, and I've been building my literature review on that to get the Army to pay for it instead of me, so that'll be good. I didn't mean to hog the microphone, but that's sort of where this week has been rich with production, and that was another part of the work I was doing. I hope.
I was interested, Ken, in what you said about bringing gratitude and forgiveness into trading.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could say a little more about that. How do you?
Well, sure. Yeah.
How would you?
Oh,
How would
exactly.
you do that?
Well, if you take a look on the homepage for tortoisecapital.net, there are two flashcards on there. One of them is the process that I use for breaking the day up into 30-minute chunks, and what I do in each one of those 30-minute chunks. The first 30 minutes, I'm just trying to get something in and get my feet wet, and like a OR3, and then see what happens. And then there's 4 30-minute segments of the morning session when the morning move unfolds. After the smoke clears, there's about 2 hours prior to lunch when a move can happen. And whether you're trading it on 1 minute, 3 minute, 10 minute, or 30 minute, there's about 2 hours in which things can unfold. I like the 3-minute chart in there because that's 40 candles. And then there's about 90 minutes of the lunch when everything gets all quietude and whatever. And then there's 2 hours in the afternoon, which is either going to be a reversal of the morning move, in which you're going to have a small range and a choppy day, or it's going to be half again as much as the morning move. So you're going to go, pause, and continue to go, and then that becomes one of those large range days, and it might even become a much larger move in the afternoon as the momentum just doesn't stop, like it breaks through resistance, whatever, and then off it goes. And then there's the last 30 minutes of the day in which everybody who is leveraged up for the intraday moves has to unwind their position because of margin calls and whatever. And so that's where you get that VWAP magnet in the last hour or the last 30 minutes. So one of those charts on that home page is the management of the daily time chunks, that there's different things that I'm looking at different points of the day. Well, the other chart is the process that I go through as soon as the market closes that leads me to being ready to trade the next morning 30 seconds before the market opens. And I drew that one by saying, what does it mean to be ready to trade? Well, I had to have done all these different pieces and parts. One of those things, and it goes, where do I find the sources of symbols? Well, there's three sources. There's everything that I traded today is automatically on my list for tomorrow because it's a continuation trade. Because I'm emotionally connected and aware of all the little nuances that were going on. So tomorrow, that's an easy one to prepare because the act of trading it today prepares me to think about how to trade it for tomorrow. So I always prefer a continuation trade to taking a new symbol. So that's one source. The second source is any new swing trade pattern that fires for the first time and gives me that nice favorable setup for a swing trade now becomes a candidate for turbo trading the next day. Because if it starts to move in the direction of the swing trade entry, I can get an intraday entry and then it goes through my mechanical entry. Now, bang, now I'm into the swing trade, but I already paid for the entry with what I made en route to the mechanical entry. That's my favorite trade. That's swing trading one day at a time. So that's the second source. And then there's all the usual suspects. That's just simply the frog champions. Brazil. Look at Brazil today. Yesterday, on a hunch or a speculation or a simple PSAR flip on a narrow range day, we bought Brazil yesterday, and that gave me a 10R trade at the open. It moved that much in my favor. It was just like, holy shit. Just by, and then it had some follow through. So those are the three sources. And then what do I do with them? Oh, I go through the preparation. What does it mean to prepare? There's a list. And so there's that whole preparation process is mapped out. And then the rehearsal and the visualization and then mindfulness that gets me ready to trade 30 seconds before the market opens. You know, the pregame warm-up and all that. So I hit, and when that bell rings, dude, I don't have to warm up. I am ready to play. Well, if you go back to the very first part of that process, even before I start looking for the candidates, the last thing that I do to clear the deck from the day today was gratitude and forgiveness. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have traded today. I forgive myself for all the trading shenanigans that I did. I just forgive myself for all the, I made money today, so somebody lost money. I forgive myself for that. So gratitude and forgiveness ends the day. And then that rolls immediately into gratitude and forgiveness for the trading that I'm about to do after I go through all this planning and preparation. So gratitude and forgiveness for me are the bookends for each trading day. Before I do any planning and prep, I start with gratitude and forgiveness. As soon as I finish all the execution and the assessment, whatever, I just give a gratitude and forgiveness for just being alive and for having had a chance to do this against all the odds. You know, still here, still pedaling. So gratitude and forgiveness are those anchoring points. And then what is it that I have to be grateful for? List. Really? If you don't know what that list is, that's your next work in progress. Make the list. What are the things that you have to give forgiveness, you need forgiveness about, or to give forgiveness for? List. Like if you're honest at all, there should be quite a few things on that list. Don't know you that well, but if you're a monkey like me, you know what I mean. So, or forgiveness for the crimes you have not yet committed. I like to get ahead of that a little bit, build up a little spiritual pre-karma, if you will.
It's all your mistakes. You know, it's kind of what you have to forgive yourself for, and then
so
rehearse
now if you,
what you do differently.
Yeah. So now if you connect that to the owl meditation, for example, the owl meditation is is related to that in the sense that all of the negativity and emotionality of you can't do this, what an idiot you are, how look at your short, all those inner voices of self-doubt and despair and shame and disgust, all of those positive feelings come up. The owl meditation is the explicit effort to mine all of that darkness and shadow and bring it up into the sunlight, name every one of those things, make them as hurtful as I can make them, say the things that could hurt me the most, and say it in the voice that causes me the most distress. Write it down on one sheet of a 3x5 card. Just say the things that I hate to hear. On the back side of it, name the emotions and the negativity that's in there. Go back to the first side, get it all out. Fucking get it all out. Put it on the paper. When I'm done with that, emptied my bowl, put that in an envelope, seal the envelope, light the envelope on fire, watch the smoke go until the smoke is gone, and then stay there until it's time to do the next thing. Do that once a week. Physically. Do that every day mentally. Condense that into a speed run, associate it with a tone on the drum or a feeling on my hand or that little aho, so that I can, it's like instant coffee. Drop it in, hit the hot water, take a swig, done, and just release that shit. The universe's job is to figure out what to do with the gift of the truth. All those things that I say that I hate about myself, all that's true. I'm not making that shit up. There's a lot to be ashamed of and feel despicable about. So I'm just telling the truth about it. And the universe knows what to do with the truth of that. That's its job, not my job. My job is to take whatever it gives me in return and do my best with it. My intention in doing that effort, whatever my intention was, that's what I get back from the universe. If it was slipshod and in a hurry, just get done with it and self-deceit, then I get more of it. So just tell the truth. It's easier, and then release it, and then you get more to work on. And you don't. All you have to do is your best. Just do your best, whatever that is. Not perfect. Just do your best with in that moment on the most important thing. That's your job, and your intention is what the universe recognizes, and that's its job, is to do something with that. Hey, I gave you the truth. What are you going to do? That's your job. I'm not going to judge the universe. You know, I have my hands full judging me. You know,
Yeah.
but that's my job. I think my judgment of myself, as honestly as I can make it, is how the universe judges me. It's given me the self-awareness and the opportunity to do something with that judging reticle, that those eyeglasses, the weighing machine. It gave that to me to do what I will with it. What did I do with the gift of consciousness and self-awareness? You know, so the owl meditation is how I dig into the mind to uncover all that stuff and then stack it up on the mountain that we then climbed for wisdom and processing. And you get that go to where the work is. When it's time to dig, dig. When it's time to stack, stack. When it's time to sift and find the gold, process it. That's all connected to whatever the next thing that needs to be done. If you don't know what the next thing to do is, then you should sit and think about that for a while. Because that's probably the next thing that needs to be done, is thinking about the next steps, so that you do that right. That's my experience with it. So anyway, that's the answer to the, hey, what is gratitude and forgiveness like, but nested inside of that that process. Then those two charts, that's my entire process. That's the process I follow for 15, 20 years. Every freaking day. I got those charts up and I look at that and just, yep. What are my sources of candidates? And that's why, a lot of times you guys will hear me say, it's the same symbols, the same patterns, same decisions every single day. I mean, you guys got to be getting tired of hearing me say that stuff. But literally, that is exactly the industrial process. And I'm just trying to use, Kaizen and continuous improvement to make little tweaks, and then alignment to make sure it's heading in the right direction, and just keep pedaling, trying to be smooth.
That's the daily trading plan preparation process and the daily trading plan execution.
Yep,
Okay.
those are the two. There's also, I think, videos on
I
that
have seen them,
homepage as well, and each one is about 10, 15 minutes. But it really, the blueprint for a building is on one page. It has a lot of details, breakout pages, but at some level, the blueprint for the pyramids is pretty simple. It's a tetrahedron, Everything else is details. Do you know that until the Eiffel Tower, the pyramids were the tallest stable structure humans had built? Eiffel Tower was the first thing built that was taller than the pyramids that lasted for a while, Crazy. Hey, that's everything I got. I got us at 8:29. I got to turn this off and turn on the daily podcast. I had to laugh.
Excellent.
Guy sent me a note. He says, "Hey, I'm going through the foundations course. Do you have any material that shows me, your live trading or how you do that stuff every day?" I said, "Well, it's the nightly podcast. I mean, literally." Literally, that is 100% of how to do it every day. So I'll have to do a better job of explaining that to him. Anyway, hey, good to see you guys, and thanks for hanging in there. Good
Thanks,
questions,
everybody.
good work today. Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao for now.
Good night.